To pay or not to pay. I'm talking about paid advertising and free advertising. Which one's best for you? Today, I'm going to review pros and cons for both sides of that equation so that you have the information you need to make the best decision for your business, the goals that you're trying to achieve, and the resources and budget you have available. So stick with me and we'll go through each one of them. Hi, I'm Vicki O'Neill, your Plateau to Grow marketer, and today I'm going to review pros and cons to paid versus free advertising. Now, if you're a new company or you're considering starting a business or you're a small business with limited resources, you're not alone. So this will be a great video for you to understand what the options are, and then also the pros and cons to whether or not you really should pay for any advertising, or if you just need to spend time on free marketing and free advertising like social media platforms. Now, it's really going to depend on what works best for your brand and where you are in your business, and whether or not it's just you marketing your brand or if you have help in your company or outsourced. So that's a decision that you really need to determine up front and kind of calculate that into the overall process of whether or not you're going to go down the path of paid or free. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, let's review the pros of free advertising first. The first one is obvious. It's free. And that means that there's no money exchanged for any type of exposure or any type of lead generation. But the opportunity cost to that is that there's money involved when it comes to your time or whoever you're outsourcing that to, whether it's somebody on your team internally or someone that you're outsourcing that to. So keep that in mind. It may not come out of your budget in regards to actual dollars out of your budget, but there's a cost associated with whoever's time is actually investing in marketing your company. Now, why is this important? It's important because when you're looking at your customer acquisition costs, it's not just looking at the dollars invested in purchasing an ad or buying an ad on Facebook. It's looking at the total cost, manpower, tools, everything involved with the acquisition of a particular customer. So you have to incorporate all costs in order to get an accurate customer acquisition cost. The second pro to free advertising is organic listings on Google, for example. Now, think of a time that you were looking for a particular product or service and you typed it in and you saw ads and then you saw organic listings. Which one were you more likely to click on? I'm going to say you're in the 70 to 80% of people who don't click on the ads. You actually clicked on one of the organic listings. And that's a huge benefit to free advertising, is that you don't have that automatic perception that it's clickbait, or it may not take me to a place where I think it's going to based on the information on the search results page. So when you're evaluating whether you should create blog posts or you need to update your website or create something organic to be listed in the first page of different keyword results, factor that in. How many ads are going to be there? How competitive are those keywords? So you just need to look at the competitiveness of the keywords that you're using in order to be listed in the organic listings. The third pro to free advertising is the creativity and flexibility of the content that you create. You've never seen anybody create an ad on Facebook and then share it on LinkedIn, right? Because ads are restricted to that particular platform. Now, there's pros to that, which I'll get into later, but it's important to look at the creativity and flexibility that you have with your own marketing when you're not going through a paid service or a paid resource like Facebook or even Google Ads. If you're blogging and you're podcasting and you're YouTubing, look at the opportunities that you have with free marketing for your brand to incorporate those into each other. So you may do a blog post and then incorporate your YouTube video into it that's going to increase the views of your YouTube video, and then also start expanding your audience depending on where people are finding your content. You can't do that with paid, so keep that in mind. Think ahead of the purpose of your content and what you're trying to achieve by sharing it. Okay, let's get into the cons of free advertising. The first one is that it's really hard to get noticed. You become part of the noise because there's so many people out there, no matter what your industry is, no matter what your market, your geography, your age group, it doesn't matter. There's so much information that people are being inundated by every single day that it's a challenge to get noticed. So you need to really hone in on what the purpose of your content is and be consistent and congruent in where you're posting it so that you can start building up that know, like, and trust factor with your target audience. So keep that in mind that when you're posting free content on any social media platform, or even if it's a blog or you're partnering with somebody else, that free advertising is free, but you're going to have to evaluate what you need to do in order to get more eyeballs seeing it in order to increase engagement and take them along that customer journey process to buy from you. The second kind of free advertising is the ability to measure it. Now, you can measure it on different social media platforms, but you're not going to get to the details of what's working and what's not working as you can with a paid ad. So I encourage you to look at where you're marketing your brand on each of the platforms and evaluate what analytics are available for each one so that you know what you're measuring and you can identify what's working and what's not working. That's one of the cons to having a no cost option, is that it's just more difficult to measure. So you have to be more diligent in understanding not only where you're putting it to attract your target audience, but what's the engagement, what's the follow through, and who's buying from you. Because at one point you're going to want to look at not only what's working and what's not working, but you're going to want to evaluate where you're getting the highest quality leads and which one of those are converting to the highest profitable customers. The third con to free advertising, and if you're new to your business, you're new to marketing, you're trying to create a presence for your brand on any platform, anywhere, anytime, is that it takes a lot of time. Like I mentioned earlier, is that there's so many people in all these different spaces that if you're coming into it new, that it's a big challenge to just find your space. So it does take a lot of time. It takes a lot of consistency. And trust me when I say it will get frustrating. You'll be very frustrated with all the time and effort that you've spent in creating your marketing materials and sharing it with your audience and engaging with them and not seeing many results initially. But I encourage you to stick with it, because the more consistent you are and you continue to engage with people who are seeing your content, it will go a long way and help you build the know, like, and trust factor with your audience, and they will ultimately become your customers and then your raving fans. Okay, let's go into the pros of paid advertising. The first pro to paid advertising is that it's measurable. Every time you place an ad, no matter what the platform is, it is measurable. And that's really good, especially if you're starting out in your business, or you just launched a new product, or there's something new that you're doing and you want to create awareness. Look at where your target audience is and find out how much money it's going to take to invest in getting placements in front of those individuals. Once you know what that is, then you'll go through the process of placing the ad. Have expectations of knowing what you're going to get from that. Is it number of clicks? Is it number of click-throughs? Is it number of signups? Is it number of sales? Understand what the goal of that ad is and then measure the effectiveness of that ad. That's such a great thing about paid advertising, is that you can measure what's working and what's not so that you can adjust accordingly. The second pro to paid advertising is visibility. Now, it's going to be seen on any of the platforms, whether it's Google at the top of the search results for those keywords that you choose, or if it's on Instagram as people are scrolling through their feed. Now, we've all seen sponsored ad, we've seen paid ads. It could be on Facebook, it could be on Twitter. No matter which the platform, there's a paid advertising option. So if that's something that you want to do for a new product launch or a new initiative that you've got in your company, doing paid ads is actually a good option because it's for a short amount of time, and it's measurable. But you do want to look at that and see what are the goals that I want to achieve through this paid ad and measure it accordingly. Make sure that you have a compelling call to action and that it's going to drive the results that you want. The third pro to paid advertising is the flexibility with targeting. Now, you've heard me talk over and over again on any platform, whether it's video on YouTube or it's my podcast, Connect the Dots. I always talk about the importance of understanding who your ideal target customer is. And the reason being is one of the reasons being is that if you're going to invest in paid advertising, you need to understand who you're targeting. The great thing about this is that as you're building your ad on each of these platforms, it goes through a process of helping you hone in and target those individual groups. And when you do that, you're increasing the likelihood that your ad's going to be seen by your ideal customers. And what I just mentioned in number 2 is to make sure it's a compelling ad and you've got a call to action that's going to drive the behavior that you want to achieve the goal and purpose of that particular paid ad. Okay, let's go into the cons of paid advertising. The first one is it can get very costly. You can do it for a short amount of time or you can do it for a long amount of time. It really depends on your goal and your budget. But if you don't know what you're trying to achieve and you just randomly put money into your ad, it is going to get costly. Or if you're in a competitive industry or you're using very competitive keywords, it also can get very costly. So you'll want to look at your budget and determine how much money you have in your budget for paid advertising so that you can plan accordingly. It will go through the process of asking you how much you want to spend either for your campaign or how much you want to invest on a daily basis. That helps the algorithm determine when your ad is displayed based on the criteria that you set. The good thing about that, like I mentioned in one of the benefits, is that it's measurable. So because it's measurable, if you're putting $100 into an ad for a day, then you can look at the click-throughs and you can look at whatever that end result is. Hopefully it was trying to generate sales of a product or a service. Did the ad pay for itself? Was that ad profitable? Those are questions that you need to keep in mind as you invest more money in ads. The second con to paid advertising is the negative perception it has with a lot of people. And this goes back to the perception and experience that people had with links way back when. So be careful with your ad when you create it and who you're targeting it to. Make sure that the description, the links, the call to actions, everything are accurate so that when they click on that, it's going to give them exactly what you told them it was going to. Keep in mind that people are still using ad blocker apps as well. In fact, the number has skyrocketed between 2018 and 2019. It went from 142 million people using ad blockers to 618 million people using ad blockers. Yeah, that high. The third con to paid advertising is the limitations it has in ad creativity. So if you're creating an ad specifically for LinkedIn, you then can't use that ad on Google. You can use the same content, you can use the same call to action, but you can't take that ad from LinkedIn and use it on Google. But you can, when you're looking at free marketing for your company, you can take a blog post from your website and then also incorporate it on Medium, for example. So when you're using paid advertising, not only are you taking money out of your budget to invest in this placement, but you're also limited to the audience on that particular platform. So keep in mind, if you've got an audience that's on LinkedIn and Twitter, for example, placing an ad on LinkedIn is only going to get a portion or a fraction of your overall audience. Then you have to look at your budget and see if you have money in there as well to create that same ad or a similar ad and have that placement on Twitter so that you're getting your entire audience. I hope that was helpful. Was there something in particular that helped create some clarity with you in regards to paid advertising versus free advertising? Let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're new here, and don't forget to hit that bell notification so you're notified when I upload new videos and also when I go live every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for joining me today, and until next time, make today great.